Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ English. Let's talk about a very fascinating topic from International Relations, GS Paper 2. We are looking at the disputed region, South China Sea. In past, we have seen China's repeated expansionist claims in the East China, South China Sea, in fact, even in the Indo-Pacific area. In fact, that's the whole reason why India continues to have its strong relationship with America, because India knows that forums like quadrilateral dialogue are the only chance with which we can balance Chinese monopoly in the Indo-Pacific area. Now, having said that, today's topic refers to a group of islands, and islands that are claimed by Taiwan, and yet China continuously seeks to interfere and demand rights over them. So which islands are these? Let's have a look at that. But before we actually look in detail over these new disputed regions in news named as the Pratas Island, it's high time we talk about the background. What has been going on in the last few months really between China and Taiwan? So let's understand that China Sea has several overlapping territorial and maritime claims because it is an area that's rich in oil, gas, fisheries, and it is also the route of major global shipping routes. Now, since 1947, China has been making historical rights in the form of a line called as 9-line. In fact, earlier, during the 1940s, it was the 11-line. From 1950s onwards, it now became the 9-line. And what is this? It is an imaginary line, that is a U-shaped area in the South China Sea which claims up to 90% of the South China Sea as belonging to China itself. China has been exerting its historical rights across many disputed islands. For example, the Spratly Island. For example, the Paracel Island, including the Scarborough Shoal. Now, there are many countries who are involved, therefore, in this kind of dispute. We have countries like Brunei, we have countries like Vietnam, Philippines, Taiwan, all of whom, including Japan, oppose China's claims and China's monopolistic interest in this region. As I said, 90% of South China Sea is actually being claimed by China. In previous lectures, I have spoken about 4 strategies of China, very important for UPSC exam. Right now, we are looking at the 9-line. Then you have the string of pearls policy. Remember, I gave you examples from Hambantota Port, Djibouti Port, Gwadar Port. Then there is salami slicing policy of China and the grey zone tactic of China. So all these taken together means that South China is heavily claimed by China itself. Now, what's the new thing here? Few days before, we also saw China and Japan conflicting over a group of uninhabited islands known as Senkaku that China calls the IOU. Much later than that, Pingtan was in the news. I told you Pingtan is an area in China mainland from where Taiwan is very, very close. In fact, the closest point to Taiwan. From there, China was throwing missiles across Taiwan in an operation named as Operation Justice, Mission Justice. At the same time, Yonaguni was in the news in northern Taiwan, very near the northern border of Taiwan, where China-Japan fought over medium-range missile deployment. Today, another group of islands are disputed, named as Pratas Island. They are also known as Dongsha Island. Now, these are islands in South China Sea, and these are about 3 islands that form a circular coral atoll. Okay, and now 2 of these are above the sea level. Recently, we saw one Chinese drone, surveillance drone from China that was trying to make its entry in the Pratas Island in Taiwan. This is a Taiwanese controlled territory, and therefore Taiwan has said it is an act of unilateral provocation. It is an act of signaling future war. It is an irresponsible action taken by China. So in the news right now are Pratas Island. Okay, so they are right here, located very strategically if you see them between Hong Kong, Taiwan. We have spoken about both these issues in detail earlier. From Hong Kong, I told you the one country, two system policy of China. Taiwan, I had spoken to you about the one China policy. So now these are strategically located somewhere in between right here, the Pratas Island. What is happening now? A Chinese military surveillance drone entered a region in Taiwan named as Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, the ADIZ zone. This is again a very important concept. So today I will explain you the logic behind ADIZ IZ also. So this Chinese drone entered this region of Taiwan, very near Taiwan's military base, and it kept on coming close to the Pratas Island, also called as Dongsha Island, as you see on the map here. Now, all these areas are controlled by Taiwan, and yet China continued to send these drones. The drones they were sighted for a brief period of time. They entered Taiwanese territorial aerospace and they were flying at a very high altitude. Very high altitude. It was so high that we could not properly monitor them. It was much above, much more beyond the local air defense system. Taiwanese military therefore raised an alert naturally. They said it's a very irresponsible activity and it is almost about violating international customs and norms that China has done. But then this is not new about China. We have seen previously, whether it's about China, Japan or China, Taiwan, it has been going on for quite some time. Taiwan has been one contentious area for China. Long back I had told you, during 1945, after the Second World War, when Japan got defeated, Japan surrendered Taiwan to China. But Japan did not clarify to which party in China was Taiwan given to. The main party in mainland China or the small group of Chinese leaders that was stationed in Taiwan. Since then to today, the conflict has been going on and on. People in Taiwan, the residents, they claim an independence. They claim some autonomy, but China doesn't allow that. Although many countries, they maintain diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but for China, it's a matter of huge fear. Recently, we were again worried with new developments happening because we all know that US maintains many bases in Taiwan. It is America which provides subsidized arms, subsidized weapons, ammunitions to Taiwan. America is a key supporter of Taiwan here in South China Sea, and that's something which is not okay with China. In fact, the recent Operation Justice against Taiwan was also a message to America that Taiwan is mine. That's what China says, and no toleration will be done for any intrusion from America. Now, what are these new things in news? We have seen earlier in the map, you can see Pratas Island and Spratly Island, Scarborough Shoal. I also told you about the Yonaguni. I have spoken about the Pingtan. Today we are looking at Pratas. So exactly what are these Pratas Islands that have suddenly made so much news? So remember, they are also called Dongsha. They are a small group of islands, okay? And now these are located in northern part of South China Sea. They are characterized by a circular atoll structure. Remember, in India also, as we study the island landscape, many times you must have studied as you examine the Andaman Nicobar geography or Lakshadweep Island territory, you must have heard of this word named as atoll. So that's the structure of these islands also in Pratas, where now Dongsha Island is the only island that is visibly above the sea level here, while the other two are submerged in the sea, okay? So that's how it is like. So Dongsha here becomes crucial for UPSC places in the news. You must identify that with the map. Now, having said that, these islands are strategically located in South China also because it's a very important maritime route. It is located very strategically connecting the Pacific and the Indian Ocean. Now you see, why is it such a disputed region? And it lies approximately 445 km near Taiwan and 320 km to the southeast of Hong Kong. No wonder it is such a strategic location for Taiwan. But China keeps on claiming it repeatedly. Now, these are beautiful scenic islands, by the way. And the People's Republic of China, the main party in China, claims them. It says it's a part of my land. It's a part of one China policy. But Taiwan controls them, and Taiwan says, no, it is not an integral part of China. In fact, it's a crucial part of a very well-known biodiversity hotspot named as Dongsha Atoll National Park. It's a scenic and a beautiful national park with lots of unique endemic species of plants and animals. And there are no permanent residents here. It's mostly uninhabited, quite like we spoke about the Senkaku Islands also. But Taiwan maintains its marine, institutions. It maintains its marine stations right here in this Dongsha Island. So therefore, because we were talking about China's 9-dash line, and in the news in the last few days, we have been discussing the salami slicing strategy and all. So here is a broad depiction of the 9-dash line. As I said, it runs like an imaginary U-shaped line, which conquers 90% of South China Sea according to Chinese claims. Now, in this area, you have seen some very crucial strategic regions, which we just spoke about, and therefore it becomes a key region of dispute between many nations of this area, such as you have Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, and Taiwan as well. So that's about the 9-dash line. And now China has kept on evolving its very smart strategy. As I said, these are called gray zone actions. Certain areas that are not clearly identified on map, certain areas that belong to disputed line of control, disputed border lines. These are claimed by China in a very strategic way. A very good example could be India-China border dispute too. Although we know that there is a big difference between international border and line of controls. Now look at India-China also. If you look at LAC, line of actual control, there is a lack of understanding and clarity even today. Whether you talk about the Aksai Chin or whether you talk about the eastern Arunachal Pradesh, and China then starts taking advantage of such situations, creating its own maps, its own monopoly. And now what China has been doing is that repeatedly it has been making inch by inch move towards various regions in South China. It's like creating a coordinated multi-domain pressure on other countries, like sending surveillance military drone, like what's happening in the Pratas Island right now. Then also stationing its coast guards. In news last month, we saw how Chinese fighter jet had done some kind of a locking of a jet that belonged to Japan. So both the fighter jets became locked. China was actually surveying Japanese jet for a very long time. It was called radar locking. Japan had raised a voice against that. So that's one of the strategy. Maintaining maritime militia as well as research vessel. All these slowly keep on increasing your claim until one day you find yourself claiming a big chunk of land, is also known as therefore salami slicing strategies. So for GS paper 2 international relations, all these would be equally important for you, and lots of examples are there from the map. Now I was talking about this issue right now regarding the Pratas Island, and I told you how Chinese military drones were entering an area in Taiwan that's known as ADIZ area. What does it really mean? It means an air defense identification zone. Now please understand, it's an imaginary area, okay? It's a presumed imaginary area that lies a little beyond a country's territorial airspace. And as soon as any foreign plane, drone, fighter jet enters this area, this imaginary airspace, they will have to show some identity and they will have to tell about their origins so that the country doesn't feel threatened, to maintain its own security. The purpose is to track, identify, monitor aircrafts much before they can actually come inside your sovereign territorial airspace. So you create an imaginary buffer area, and as soon as these foreign planes or drones are entering that buffer area, you already investigate them, because you do not want to take any risk with your own territorial airspace, okay? Because otherwise, if you don't stop them on time, they can cause a later potential security threat to any country. And if you talk about the location, then typically the ADIZ is situated outside a country's sovereign airspace, and usually it will be about 12 nautical miles from the coast, okay? So this should also remind you of UNCLOS 1982, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Remember, as China claims up to 90% of South China Sea under 9-dash line policy, there are many countries which we just looked at. All of these say these belong to us. They are a part of our exclusive economic zone under UNCLOS, and China has no right to claim that. So therefore, it becomes a matter of international dispute. Similarly, here also, when you look at the Air Defense International Zone, it's an extra buffer zone outside your main territorial airspace. Now, although it is not recognized internationally as an airspace belonging to one particular country, there is no such international law regulating that. Just like you have for the territorial airspace, it is mostly a self-declared security arrangement which many countries in the world today follow to make themselves feel secure. And some of the countries who maintain this kind of a claim, buffer, imaginary airspace area, are Taiwan, Japan, China, South Korea, America. All these nations have these zones. Sometimes it leads to overlapping claims, especially if you see the East Asian area. There are so many tensions and then diplomatic protests regarding overlapping claims over each other's ADIZs. A very good example, what we just saw. China frequently keeps on sending military aircrafts, drones to Taiwan's ADIZ. Why? Because China strongly believes in applying pressure. It's a grey zone. There is no clarity on that, and then China wants to take advantage and eventually claim that as a part of its own region. So from this video, we can have few takeaways. We understood a new concept regarding ADIZ. At the same time, we should also remember all these disputed regions, China's 4-point strategy, and that's very crucial for the exam. A quick practice question with reference to recent Chinese drone activity near the Dongsha or the Pratas Island. Look at these statements. 1. These Pratas Islands are administered by Taiwan and they are located in the northern part of South China Sea. Second, China's use of drone, military militia, coast guard around these islands is an example of salami slicing technique. And 3, the air defense identification zone is same as sovereign airspace under international law. If you have understood the concept, the question will be easy for you. Try to answer. Verify your answer as well, and as you are studying and preparing with such commitment, remember we are here to give you all support in terms of course material, guidance and revision. If you are writing prelims exam, do enroll for the Success in Prelims batch. Why? Because in a short time, within few months, we promise to not just finish your syllabus for GS1 and CSAT, but also make you revise and timely practice of PYQ, MCQ. Use code SPLIVE. Admissions will close 31st January. Similarly for 27, this is the right time to start from scratch. So if you want clarity on international affairs, static topics, history, geography, all GS papers, now is the time to enroll. We provide books, notes, guidance, coaching. Timings are very flexible. Remember, use code SPLIVE for maximum discount. Batch starts 27 January. For 28 also, batch starts 27th January. So please hurry up because this is the January morning batch and soon admissions are going to close. Do use code SPLIVE, get maximum discount so that you get a professional edge when it comes to UPSC preparation. Thank you so much.